YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is my May book haul. I have 7 books that I got, and 6 of these 7 books came in one day. My husband, I'm not sure how he feels about me right now. I try to explain that one of the books was a gift from the publisher. His focus, I'm sure, was on the other 5 books that I bought myself. Let me explain to you why I bought these books. Most of them are Booker Prize winning novels, which, you know, this year I'm trying to read all the books that have won the Man Booker Prize in its 51-year history. And some of these are books that are out of print. They're not being printed here in the United States, and so I have to buy them. I can try to get copies from the library. Sometimes the library only has 1 or 2 copies. There are a few books that the library has no copies, which means that I have to buy the books. And what I've been doing is trying to get new books from Book Depository in England, as opposed to trying to buy used books from third-party sellers on Amazon Marketplace, or trying to scour the bookstores looking for old copies of books. I'm kind of a book snob. I don't necessarily like old books. If I have a book and it gets old, that's one thing. If I read a book from the library and it's an old copy that I know I'm just reading and I'm going to return it, that's another thing. But like these Booker Prize winning novels, I'm trying to establish a collection. At the end of the year, I would love to own all 52. At the end of the year should be 52 winners of the Man Booker Prize. I'd love to have a shelf where I just have Man Booker Prize winning novels. That's one of my 2019 goals. And so I have to buy the books, and buying them throughout the year just feels like a better way than trying to buy all the books in December. At least that's what I'm telling myself. Hopefully my husband believes me. The books that I bought, though, they're pretty. I'm going to show them to you. The first book is the 3rd book in a trilogy. It's not a Man Booker Prize winning book, but it completes a Man Booker winning trilogy. The author is J.G. Farrell, and I'm intrigued by his story because he published this book in 1970 called Troubles, and 1970 was the year when they didn't really have a Booker Prize competition, because they moved from having the prize recognize books that were published that previous year to having books published the current year being eligible. And so this is a book that would have been a contender, except its publication date fell in that kind of Bermuda Triangle of dates, and so it lost out. And in 2010 they acknowledged that maybe they'd overlooked some things, and they went through some books that were from that period, and this book won what's called the Lost Man Booker Prize. This is Troubles by J.G. Farrell, and maybe because he didn't win that year, I don't know if that's why. And so in 1973 he published The Siege of Krishnapur, which did win the Booker Prize, and then in 1978 he published Singapore Grip. This one sadly was not recognized by the Booker judges, but these 3 books all together form a trilogy, and they explore the reach of the British Empire in other places in the world. So this one is set in Ireland, explores the relationship between the United Kingdom and Ireland. And this one is set in India, so of course talking about the alliance between Britain and India and Singapore, UK and Singapore. So altogether these 3 books form a trilogy. And so I bought this one early in the year because it was 1970 publication. I was trying to read it then, and Siege of Krishnapur. And so I had to buy this to complete the set, but now I have all 3. So you know what, as I hold on to these books and they're starting to get brown, this is the reason that I don't necessarily want to collect paperbacks, but I like how these books look as a group. So these I already had, and I got this one a few weeks ago. And so this one, even though it's not a Booker Prize winner, is probably going to be stored on my Booker Prize shelf because they all go together. The next 2 books are also a set. These are the Peter Carey Booker Prize winning novels. This is an author who won the Booker Prize twice. I have True History of the Kelly Gang and Oscar and Lucinda. And tell me that you wouldn't want to buy these books as well. Now, here's the thing. I got these two books because they are Booker Prize novels. But now that I've gotten them, here's what I've noticed. These designs were made for the Peter Carey books. And so here are some other titles by this author that have very similar covers. So now I want to collect all the books, but I'm going to try to restrain myself and just stick with these two for now. Booker Prize winning novels, I haven't read them yet. These don't come up on my Booker reading for another month or so. So at some point you'll hear me mention them. I wanted to get them now because, well, I'm trying to get the books in advance of when I need to read them. It's taking a toll on me if I have to wait to try to get the books from the library. Then it means that I miss all kinds of deadlines, and I'm trying to do better. One of these is about a Robin Hood experience. Peter Carey is an Australian writer, and this one, The True History of the Kelly Gang, is a modern day Robin Hood in Australia. And this one is about a relationship between an heiress and a clergyman, Oscar and Lucinda, and they're both gamblers in some way according to the synopsis. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to reading these, but to be honest, I'm probably more excited about the covers than anything else. I think these are gonna look so beautiful on my shelf. I might put them this way though. Shelf. The next book is Penelope Lively's Moon Tiger, and I fell in love with this design when I saw it on the website. I didn't think it was going to be quite so small, but this is a penguin book, and I like that the design carries all the way through. This is Penguin Essentials. I've never seen this size. That's not true. I think My Lord of the Flies is a Penguin Essential, but I really like it. I think it's so cool, the artwork. The cover design, it says, is by H, Penguin Essentials. So these are some more economical publications. Penguin Essentials. Essential reads, beautifully designed. So let me give the synopsis. It's about a woman. She's a historian, and she's lying on her deathbed, and because she was a historical writer in the active part of her life, now that she's lying there, she's thinking about writing a history of the world. But as she goes through the history of the world, she's really going through her own life story and her own experiences. So while she thinks that she's doing an exploration of an abstract world, she's really recounting her own personal events. And I remember starting this book last year. I don't remember if I finished because I can't remember the resolution. There were a lot of convoluted relationships and a lot of encounters that I couldn't quite get my hands around last year, but I have to reread it this year. I'm looking forward to finally going through this again. You know, what happened last year, because I was reading a lot of these books in a very short time and reading them from the library, some of them I felt like I didn't take enough time to really absorb what was going on in these books. The thing with Booker Prize novels is that Booker Prize novels in general are usually allegorical novels, and you have to spend time going through the various levels of the story, not just getting the surface story, but also trying to understand what's happening beneath the surface, the political or social issues that the author is trying to delve into by presenting these characters. And with my limited knowledge of the world and not so current affairs, sometimes these stories, especially these older Booker Prize novels, they're talking about histories and events that I don't necessarily know all the details about. So if I don't have enough time to really get into the story, the real history, then I feel like some of the symbolism of the book is lost on me, and then that's why the book isn't as meaningful, it's not as memorable. So it's one of the reasons that I want to own the books, just so I can take my time with them and really get to understanding and appreciating everything that the author is projecting through these stories. So Penelope Lively, Moon Tiger. This one was published in 1987. It's not going to come up on my Booker schedule until late June, early July. So I'm glad that I have it now, that I can prepare when it's time to read it, I will tell you more about it. The last Booker Prize novel that I got in May is Schindler's Ark by Thomas Keneally. This one was published as Schindler's Ark in the United Kingdom. When it was released for the American market, it was renamed Schindler's List, and that's the name of the movie that was made by Steven Spielberg. The story, of course, in this one is about Oscar Schindler, who was a womanizer and probably a terrible guy at the beginning of the war, but he evolved to become someone who helped rescue Jews during World War II. And it's very interesting, the story about how the title of the book got changed, because while this is a book about Jews being saved, the American publishers and Spielberg and his movie producers, they didn't want to offend the Jews in America by referring to the Ark and the historical reference of the Ark and the biblical reference of the Ark. So they used lists instead, and so that's why they used the Schindler's List title as opposed to Schindler's Ark. We're going to get a little bit more into that when I read the book and go deeper into the story. But yeah, this is the 5th Man Booker book that I got in May. I got four Man Booker books and 1 Man Booker related book in May. But I also got 2 arcs from the publisher that I'm really excited to have and to read. The first one is Summer by the Tides by Denise Hunter. Already bent the cover. I just have a lot of books around. It's set in North Carolina, and it's what happens when an older woman goes missing and her granddaughters gather at her home to try to find out her whereabouts. And so we discover some of the issues between the sisters as relationships develop between them and the neighbors, and the investigation, of course, into the whereabouts of their granny. So Summer by the Tides, I'm going to be reading and reviewing this one in the upcoming weeks. I also got A Family of Strangers by Emilie Richards, and this one also is about 2 sisters whose lives are very different. One is married to the man she loves, has children that they're raising together, and another one made some kind of a mistake, and so she's separated from the man that she loved. But one of them, there's a murder, and one of them is probably wrongfully accused, and the other one has to try to defend her sister. And I guess we're not supposed to know yet which sister is in trouble and which one is doing the rescuing. Of course, you know me, I don't want to know too much about books before I go in, but I do have to read and review this one in June, so you'll hear about these 2 arcs in the upcoming weeks, as well as I'll also be talking about these Booker Prize winning novels as I read and review them. So thanks for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you want to hear more about my Booker Prize reading this year, I'm doing a reading challenge, which I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to read all the books that have won the Booker Prize in its history, and trying to review all of them as single book reviews, talk a little bit about the political situation that is being discussed in the book. So some of the reviews, a couple of the reviews are live now, and more of them are coming. They'll be posted on the channel pretty soon. If you'd like to subscribe to the playlist where I discuss the Booker Prize winning novels, I'll link that down below, and you'll hear more about all of these books as I read them. So thanks for watching. Thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk in the comments, and until next time, happy reading.